Hey folks, Amanda here. Just a quick heads up that from time to time, the Survivor's Guide to Thriving podcast does include some adult language. So if you've got kids with you, you may just want to hold on to this episode to listen to a little later. Enjoy! Welcome back to the Survivor's Guide to Thriving podcast, the show for people who are ready to break out of survival mode in order to build a truly thriving life. I'm Amanda Solman, and along with Mark Jewell and the rest of my team here at Mark Jewell Speaking and Training, we break down common roadblocks that keep people stuck surviving and share ideas to help you thrive each and every day.
All right, so Greg, we are talking about all things meditation today, which I'm really excited because in my circle of friends, people I'm privileged to call friends, you're somebody that I look to who's really leading the way, doing things and making this so much more possible for us. So we'll get into more like background and all the things here in a minute, but just from your perspective, what are you seeing? What are the biggest benefits that people are getting out of meditating and maybe more specifically doing it as a regular healthy practice?
Oh, man, the research studies, well, I would say there are tens and tens of thousands of research studies, like provable points around anxiety, healthy bodies, more love in their relationships, more positive outlooks. And then on the flip side, that means less anxiety, less depression, less like I just can't feel my body, like I'm gaining weight and I don't understand and I'm not happy with myself, and it's just this vicious cycle, right? This is the flip side of what kind of we're going through in society. We were just told, get up, go to college, go to work, but we were never explained how to handle here, and especially how to handle here, like what's coming through the heart. We're just like, have a few beers after work, you'll be calm, instead of these other practices that we've been learning. And so the offshoots of this are productivity through the roof. It's not like our visions of some guy sitting in the Himalayas meditating for 50 years, not building anything. We have top CEOs of the world that are putting this practice into their companies and into themselves to just explode not only their business, but the livelihood and happiness of their employees and their customers.
Yeah.
This is wild.
Right. Absolutely. So there's real tangible benefits. And I'm glad that you said that, because that's one of the biggest things that I really hope people understand. Most of the people that listen to this work in some sort of corporate space, lead somewhere in the corporate space, do something, that impacts other people through their work in corporate America, corporate world, wherever that may be. And what we're seeing more and more is our clients adopt deeper practices, better habits around creating some quiet space, allowing themselves to go internal, allowing themselves to quiet the mind a little bit through meditation or whatever you want to label it. It's profound. And literally, like, it's the speed, if we can call it that, the speed of success and productivity is actually picking up when I take time to slow down.
Yeah. Imagine this quick analogy. Imagine that you open up your laptop today and it's super slow. You're like, go to the internet and you're like, why is my internet slow? It's not because of my internet connection. Why aren't my apps loading? This is what our brain does, because we're receiving so many tens and tens of thousands of thoughts on a daily basis. It's just... So then we go and we defrag our hard drive. We go to Windows or Mac and we say, hey, will you slow all the processes of the computer and put all of the little files in order? This is what happens with meditation, and why you slow down to speed up. Your brain for a moment just has the opportunity to catch up, and that allows for speed and production.
Right. We got to defrag once in a while.
Yes, defrag.
Do you remember the computers where we used to have to sit there and like wait for them to defrag before you could go on to the...
Yes, for hours. And if you forgot, it would take like all night, because it wasn't automated. It wasn't doing it on a regular basis. It didn't have a regular practice of doing this every day.
Yeah. Oh man. Got it. So give us a little bit more background into Greg Anderson, Greg W. Anderson, if you guys are following on Instagram and Facebook and places like this. So Greg, how did you get into this practice, this leadership, this at least thought leadership to some extent in the meditation world?
Yeah, great. So I started in the entrepreneur space 21 years ago. because I just didn't fit very well in regular spaces. It just didn't feel right. And so, I just flowed and built my own companies and built my own success like a lot of people do. And also that meant building culture with employees, and how do you keep people happy and how do you keep them engaged? Because it's not very easy sometimes. And I'm going through this big transformation. I'm studying all of the gurus. These are like the business gurus. And all of a sudden I found myself like 6 years ago, maybe 7 now, going through a divorce. I made a lot of money and I did well. I had what I felt was happiness. And I came out of it going, you mean to tell me that making a lot of money and having a hot wife wasn't everything that was like everything of life?
Everything you've been programmed to believe.
100%. And so I went, wow, maybe I'm missing something. And a good friend of mine, he went, which I thought at that moment was off the deep end. He was studying meditation and he's learning energy work. And I called him and said, hey man, will you teach me to meditate? And he said, no, go buy a book. What? This doesn't work for me. A few months later, we got together on a phone call and decided to create, from his idea, a men's only personal development company, which included business practices, family practices, meditation practices, and health. And that's where the leadership kind of evolved and where I went for a few years. And then coming out of the other side of that, I just got ignited with this meditation, because every time I went somewhere in the world and studied with somebody, I came back a new person. And I just wanted to know, how do I do that every day? Or how do people that couldn't take the time off to go study in a hidden temple in the middle of Italy, how could they learn the same practices? And it just kept evolving and evolving till here we are.
And now here we go. Got it. So I want to get to where we are. And then before we get there, though, I always like to make this really relevant to people who, to some extent, maybe are not like you and me, and will take off and go to a hidden temple in the middle of Italy or into a Maloka in the jungle, or
which is where we connected, right?
Which is exactly where we met. Yeah, for the first time, actually. I mean, I think I'd follow you through social media for a while, and then all of a sudden we end up on this journey together, which is about 2 years ago this month, actually. When we were down in Colombia, and so we learned a great deal about each other, and so I get it, right? Let's just say I'm John, who runs a team, in Nebraska, or, I'm Ryan, who runs an office or works in an office up in Minneapolis, or, wherever. Right. So let's think about like you and I kind of know what meditation can solve. What are the problems, right? Like these are the things that hurt, that I'm afraid of, that give me the anxiety. So what are some of those things that meditation you could foreseeably see? I just like to make it relevant to those that just like, okay, this is where it's practical.
Yeah, so we'll dive right into corporate space.
Yeah.
Let's say that you're in charge of a group of people or a team, and you have one team member on your team that every time you talk to them, you get that pit in your stomach. You're like, it's just not comfortable, because whatever they're going through, every time they talk to you, it feels like you're being attacked. It feels like you go to speak to them and they're just, we could call it negative energy, you just even call it their moods are just so aggressive that it feels like you don't even want to work with that person. And I think we can all relate that having this direct communication. And so on the flip side of this, what meditation teaches you, or what you get to learn through meditation, is that eventually you grow, I like to say, like an inch of space from the time somebody says a word to me to where I can actually look at it and think, are they really attacking me at this moment? Or are they just having a bad day? And if they're really having a bad day, should that affect mine? And can I just have a good day, no matter what everybody else on the team is doing? And that leadership and you just having a good day, promoting it. And we're not talking about just affirmations. We're not talking about just pretending to be happy, right? Which some people do. Just speak positive and that's everything. We're talking actually being happy and understanding these. You get to lead your team, and your team all of a sudden produces more numbers because you're just happy to be there. And they're less likely to be aggressive with you because you don't fall into that little trap.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. Yeah. Another one was coming through for me as you were talking there. So there's, like the person, like I could almost create this space for myself to be okay with what's going on with the other person. I'm also thinking about like Bailey in Ohio. I know she listens to the podcast, so I'm going to bring in Bailey in Ohio, right? Who's like, up at 5, tries to get some meditation in, gets things ready, has to drive 45 minutes one way to get to the office, is a mom, right? Has a significant amount of leadership. She's in an industry that's, maybe struggling just a little bit right now as it's kind of adapting as everything is evolving right now. And so it's just, a lot of pressure and the guilt of, not being there for everything with the kids sometimes. I know I get to go through that once in a while now in my new life as this is evolving, right? So how can let's just say I'm going through just kind of those normal, like the guilts, the shames, the busy day, the overwhelm of the day. How can I use this to help?
Yeah, so it's an interesting conversation to have, because the only reason to feel guilt is you're either thinking in the future how you're not going to be there, or you're focusing on last week how you weren't there. And the crazy thing that happens in this moment is you get to work and you want to focus on work, but you can't. You're only focusing on home and what you're not doing. And then you go home and you're not focused on the kids or home because you're focused on all the things you didn't get done at work and all the things you'll do next week that might not get done. And so it takes this like give and take from you all the time, because you're always not thinking, I can only do 100% when I'm right here. Like I spent the last month and a half in the jungles in Mexico, and I wasn't here where I'm at now in Park City, Utah, where my kids are. And we've built this relationship where when I'm here for a week to 2 weeks, and that's all I do. I'm only here. And I'm not focusing on the other things that can't be done. And when I'm gone, on the converse side of things, I can focus on why I'm there. I'm not partying and running around. I'm actually doing work. And so it allows me to just focus. And that removes the guilt. It removes the shame. And it also allows you to be present to either your employee or employer or your family. And that gift, that is one of the most impactful gifts you can ever give yourself.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I mean, when I'm in my practice and, when I really focus in on, just doing this moment right here, like there's not a lot going on the planet right now. That's not Mark and Greg recording a podcast. My mind is not there, not here. Gotta get it. For me, when I'm stepping into the classroom, to teach. Yeah. There's nothing going on. My dad told me once, I think you'll appreciate this. My dad told me when I was like 16, and he had been a crop duster as a part of his career at some point. He told me, he said, when he was flying that plane at 110 miles an hour, 10 feet off the ground, he said, there's nothing else happening on the planet in that moment. He said, and like, I heard this story hundreds of times, right? This all the time, right? But he stopped one day. He said, figure out what that is for you. Find a way to do that and get paid for it. Yes. Find a way to do that every day for the rest of your life and get paid for it. Cool. Yeah. So it's just being in that moment. In fact, I've got a tattoo on the inside of my right arm from him that says "Be now and give back." Right, and that was what he meant by be present, be in the moment. And just cool. Just appreciate life. And so a lot of my quest and getting to this point where I am with a regular daily, now multiple times daily practice of meditation, it has been about being more present. And so when my kids get home tonight after school. Yeah. There will be a time, and my clients know this, from 5 to 8, that's Mark's family time. And that's what we do on those days, and my kids don't question, in the new relationship, I don't have as many days with my kids, but my 5 days in a row have been like at least 10. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I don't feel like I'm not getting as much. And so that's 100%. Literally slowing time down. If time were actually saying we may not have time to go into all that today. Right. But it's not, it's just a unit of measurement. So I can sit here and be in this moment for seemingly forever. Yeah, 100%. And the kids feel it. They know that you're not disconnected. It's interesting. And if we were to relate all of this back to work, there's a difference between multitasking and switch tasking. And multitasking is having your attention out to many things at once. And some people are great at that. And there are times when you can multitask.
And then there's switch tasking, which means one task at a time. Yet I can go 10 minutes here, 20 minutes here, an hour here. Sure. And some people get caught in the loop of the multitasking, thinking I have to get so many things done at once, but you're only giving your attention 10, 20% at a time at any one thing. And this is where production really slows down. It's like going to open up and you're going to write an email to a new client, and it's a proposal. And you open up your email, and all of a sudden you open Facebook, and you open Instagram, and you open Pinterest, and you open something else. And pretty soon you have 20 windows open on your screen, and you might have had "Dear Sir" or "Madam" or "Hey John" written.
Right.
And that is multitasking, allowing the brain to just go with the flow. It's the same processes of keeping a lot of keeping your harvest with weeds out of it, right? If you can keep your crop growing without a lot of negative emotions growing, when it's time to harvest, you don't have to spend so much time separating the wheat from the tare.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's good. All right. So what is Greg doing in the world now? So I think we've got the case set for this, guys. And at the end of the day, if you're listening, I know you're listening to this and you're hearing meditation. You hear Mark talk about meditation. If you've been to our live events, if you're in the app, if you're playing along and doing the things, I'm just going to go so far as to suggest, like, might even just consider one step further. Like, how could I expand my practice even like one more minute or one more, just, whatever that might be. And so I'll let Greg talk a little bit about, like, what are some of the things you're doing? What are you creating? And I've got an exciting resource and tool that we're actually going to be deploying starting next month in our business, and actually putting some stuff out there with it. So that's one. What else?
Amazing. It's been an interesting couple of years where I started focusing on, I knew the statistics. I knew the research studies of what happens when groups of people come together. Like, they'll call this group meditation. They'll call it the Maharishi effect. And a group called the Transcendental Meditators named it this, right? From Maharishi Yogi, which created this. But anyway, throughout the world, 45 research studies done that are college level or higher that says what happens when 1% of any group gets together and they have a group intention. And this is where it gets really cool. So, right coming out of the Great Depression, people were hungry, and the corporations started to create themselves. Somebody would get a job and they would go home and they would sit at dinner with their family, or they would sit at night, and whether they believed in God and prayed, or whether they just said, you know what, I am so thankful that I have a job. I'm so thankful of all of the people that I work with that help create this company so that I have a job and food to eat, right? And then the second thing, I'm so thankful for my clients, because without people buying our products and services, we wouldn't be able to eat. I'm thankful for those people that created my company, that probably hung out everything they've ever owned and put all of the stress on them to create something. Thank you for this. And we created this industrial revolution around being grateful. And somewhere along the line, we've really lost this practice. We've lost this live group intention to just create more gratitude around us. And so I started looking at, how can we do this easier and more simple? How can we do it faster? What if we don't have the opportunity to drive across the country and meet with 7,000 people, which is what the Maharishi effects were about, where they were lowering crime rate, like physically lowering crime rate, because just more people felt good. Sounds great. If I feel good and I interact with you today, and then you go out and interact with other people, you feel good. We're just literally, through touching people, changing terraforming the planet. I want to know, how can I do this? And it was a really interesting journey that we won't cross at this moment, but I ended up creating a software platform called OneMind. OneMind meditations are in the app stores. And what it is, it's a way for any group of people or any meditator to create an event, having one person live stream it. So it's live stream audio, because things are meant to be heard and felt, not seen, when we're talking about this.
Yep.
And it was a free platform. So that if you have a corporation that just wants to hold 10 minutes every week, that just says, hey, everybody, every employee, I would love to share a message with you. And I would love this to feel in this gratitude and help us all grow together, they can. Or maybe it's a spiritual guru that has millions of followers that says, there's really bad things happening in different parts of the world. Can we just spend a couple of minutes and invest into humanity and send a little love and send a little light over there? One Mind was created to do this. They're very small. Like I hold these with my family when I'm to different parts of the world. We all get on live and it's private and there's 10 people on or 5 people on, or there's regular practices.
Wow. Beautiful. So it's an app-based platform. I can download it to my phone, my tablet, whatever.
Yeah.
And I can show up and just literally join in meditation with people from all over the planet.
Yep. And in this moment, we remove races, governments, political affiliations, borders. We're just humans being humans, wanting to feel good. And it's as easy as, looking it up and saying, oh, when's the next one that I can be on? Or maybe there's one in a week that's from this person I've always wanted to learn from. Like I want to meditate with some guys in Asia and learn Qigong or whatever it is. I register for it. I literally pull out my headphones. I set in a space. Quiet or not, I plug in my headphones, I click go live, and I'm on there. And it brings up a question people have asked me, so why not just run these on Facebook? Or why not run these on Instagram? And what we created was a closed container. It means it's only open for this. You don't have some people bashing some people on the post before that. You don't have some people flashing through. We have the intention of me being live and you being live. Like just now, we're creating something new because we're live. We're not trying to fill in the blanks because you're asking me questions and then I'm answering them and you're later on trying to post-production like it's live. Right. We're just live.
Yep, exactly. So you alluded to it. You talked a little bit of Maharishi. You talked about groups of people lowering crime rates and things like that. So give us a little bit more detail. When you brought me to awareness about that last summer and sent me the research on it, my mind was upgraded in what's possible. Yeah. Right. And I'm not right now, I'm not looking because I'm looking at a specific number that my audience will really care about. So while you're describing that, I'm trying to look up something I'm going to share in a minute. Okay. So I'm coming back to that.
I like to drop this in a little bit and then see how it goes because people originally their brain goes, what? How is that even physically possible?
Right.
So 1975 in Washington, D.C. for a month. 7,000 people came together in a park and they meditated for 30 minutes. And these meditations are just meant to feel like happiness and love and joy and gratitude. Like you could be the most masculine person on the planet, boxing every night, and you still want to feel more love, joy, and gratitude.
Right.
Yes? Yes. And so they came together and they just tracked what was going on in the city. They looked at violent crime. They looked at, any measurements that a police force would normally look at to judge how well a city is managing themselves because there's statistics on everything. The police force wants to know, they're looking for spikes and what's going on in community and society. This is how we gauge society. So they measure all these things. And over this month period of time, they watched violent crime and crime in general drop by 25%. And they say, isn't this interesting? Let's go back and look at all other statistics like, maybe everybody was just off work for a month. And they're like, well, that's not true. Maybe it was over Christmas. Well, that's not true. Maybe it was because of a storm came in and knocked all the power out in the city for a month. That's not true. So they started pulling out all of the reasons that would come. And in science, when you're checking a research, you're going, what are the possibilities above chance? We have rolling the dice, red and black. That's 50-50. And then above that, we have what's above chance. And they came back and they said it was 10,000 to 1 that this chance could be anything other than those people. Wow. It was like, wow, powerful. So people around the world over the last 35 years have been doing this over and over again. They even did it in Iraq, which was 75% lower in terrorism. Because imagine that when people are in their pits of depression and anger, if you can just give them the slightest possibility that there's another answer, I don't have to train you, I don't have to teach you. We're just giving you possibility. Your mind opens and it expands. And so they've just studied this. And so for me, this was my first real aha moment, is I hired a research study group that said, go find these. And then it was like, okay, great. Well, how do we do this? Because it needs to be easily accessible and easy. It can't be hard. I need to be able to walk out at my lunch break, find something, click in, drop in, and invest into our humanity, into our kids' future, right?
Yeah.
And so this is where that was really crafted to be digital, live streaming anywhere, no recordings, period. It's just live intentions.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that you just went into like all the other things that could have impacted, because my brain doesn't go there, but somebody who's a much more critical thinker than me might start to shoot holes in that. Oh yeah, like, well, what else was going on at the same time? And so actually going into that, like 10,000 to 1, that it wasn't this group of people, was 7,000?
7,000, which was 1% of the population of Washington, D.C. at that moment.
Got it. So if we can get is it 1%, or I thought I'd seen something about like the square root of 1% or something like that that impacts it too. But so it's like 1% of any group of people.
This is the study that they've come up with, and we don't know the answer. It could be more or less. It's just they're saying if it's this. So considering this, if 1% of the population did this, and we're talking about now pumping in just good thoughts, because we have the news that leads us into a dark hole. Can we, as a human, because that leads us into do more negative components, right? Can we as a human say, well, can we just rebuild, call it the light news? I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But because of when you hit the square roots, it's how many people do I impact? We're not just talking about woo-woo energy, which is also part of this equation, but how many people do I impact on a daily basis? If I can impact 16 people just by being nice, can I impact 32? This is where you start getting into different square roots of numbers. It's what is my average impact from me personally? Then we're talking about the higher degrees of just feeling good, the higher degrees of energy, which higher degrees of love that's being pumped into a city. Because I know when I go someplace and I go to a concert or I go listen to somebody speak, if that speaker is in a degree of love, meaning they want people to feel better, I don't have to hear a word. I can just sit down and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, I just feel good. And on the flip side, if I'm going to someplace really negative, even sometimes when I'm going to, like you go into a comedy club that's like just nasty, I walk in and I just feel it and I just don't want to be there. So we're talking about is creating that feeling of people wanting to be there in that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I alluded to before is like the group of people, a good chunk of the work that we do is in the ag and food agriculture and the food space. Everybody on my team here at MJST has ag roots. We're all farm kids for the most part. We've grown up in that space. We care deeply about the production of food. This is the one key industry that literally can't go under.
Yeah.
America still, whatever, different people have different opinions on how to produce food. The reality is, like, right now, we're so good at it. Like, this feeds a vast majority of the planet, and we can't go without all of the kinds of practices as they continue to evolve. And so I sit here and look. You made a point to me last summer. Like, you think about how many, let's say it's about at least about 50, roughly probably 50% of the people are sitting here like sending negative thoughts towards the White House constantly.
Yeah.
Right. In regards to Trump, love or hate him.
Yeah.
They're sending negativity. Right. And so that energy is obviously impacting, the government, and it's impacting the space that we all live in. And look at the result. Right. Interestingly enough. And then, what if we had, some way to counteract that, or we had positive energy? Think about your workspace, right? I mean, just how many people we literally know by research, less than 13% of people in America are even passionate about what they do. It's 12.6, Greg, percent of people have passion for what they do at work every day. It's a very small number, right? 100%. And my standard is only working with passion, right? So that's,
right.
I'm only passionate, doing the work with the most passionate people, spend time helping people get more passionate about what they do, all the things. By the way, it's like a subset of that. Like, we're helping people get passionate about what they do without quitting.
Yeah.
Right. Like, that's the job, right? The job is not where the passion comes from, right? the job is representation of, do you know what the passion is, or can you get in touch with your inner passion and allow it to express in the form of your job, how you do your work and how you do the things. Anyway, again, another benefit to going internal with meditation, because you'll start to find it easier. It'll start to come
100%.
through.
We said that if you were, we said that if you were just in the moment, you can be passionate about anything. If you're unpassionate, it's because you can't wait to go home, right?
Right. Yeah. So because of the evolution of our company, we're now getting involved into a lot of change management situations where we're actually helping to accelerate that company's culture to evolve, to become more awake, to be a better place. That's, so one company as an example, this company's been around for 100 years, and they're turning over 40% of their entry-level salespeople. So we did this, we implemented one of our programs with 12 weeks of coaching, within which obviously meditation gets taught, along with, just coaching and having somebody to go to, and it dropped to like 15%.
Wow.
Right. From 40% to 15% just by shifting that little bit. And then we created connection within their community, and we created community and connection. So they don't feel like they're out on an island by themselves anymore. And all of a sudden the people are staying. They're only turning over the people that really just, sometimes the job just isn't for you. Right. So those are the kind of impacts that we're accelerating. And we also obviously need to run into some resistance, because when you're implementing this new energy, this new shift in the workplace, all of a sudden you start to see certain aspects get to fall away.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes certain people get to fall away, and that's okay. And the human part of you, like for the people in the organization, that's scary.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's a challenge. And so sometimes it becomes, now I'm going to start telling a story about my new CEO. This is literally something we're working through right now. There becomes a story about the new CEO, and he's bad, right? Because he's implementing the change, and that's why Sue left. And we love Sue. Right.
Which they probably didn't love Sue, but now they do, because Sue's
exactly. Because now I got a scapegoat. Right.
Yeah.
So I need something. So, what if as we begin to do this more and more, I just see this impacting workplaces in such a positive way to actually accelerate change. So we can get people to sit back and then just take a minute and get more present about the work they do. Right. All of a sudden I blame less, I produce more. My brain chemistry actually balances, so I make better decisions. Right. I'm more present for the people around me. I might actually be more present to say the right thing that helps me keep the person, instead of not being present. They feel like they're disconnected. They feel like they're not significant and they don't matter. And so they quit and go to my competition. So those are some of the things I'm excited about. And then this last one is, we're passionate about the food industry. We work a lot with the businesses that serve the ag and the food industry. There's about, just in America, it's about 1.9% of the population that produce all the food.
Wow.
So out of 350 million-ish, I don't know what the actual population is right now. I haven't looked it up. It's called 350 million in America. You got 6.5 million that are feeding everybody.
Yeah. This is a really interesting topic. Do you remember, you heard the stories about the king who had the poison checker? Right? The guy that would eat the food first and make sure he didn't die.
Yeah.
Well, poison in the body comes in multiple different formats. It wasn't just, anthrax or some weird thing that was being put in there.
Right.
It's the people that were preparing the food that, if you study water molecules, when they tell a water that I hate you, and then they freeze it and they look at it, right? The water molecule is disgusting. When you eat food from people who care, your body actually works better. If you eat from something that's a dead substance, and now imagine water coming in through all kinds of angles of pipes, which is then being put through a food processor, there's no care. It's basically, and then they throw in all these other chemicals, right?
Sure.
Which kill the food that then we eat, which then kills the body.
Right.
So it's much bigger than we could ever imagine how important it is for those that are caring and preparing and growing, that they're cared for and they're loved and they have love.
And absolutely. And that's to love on those people. So here's what tends to happen. This is what we're doing. The ag industry and the food industry is constantly debating now. I don't want to get into a conventional versus organic debate, not what it's about, but it's about there are people who grow in all sorts of ways, and they grow they became farmers because they love the land. They love producing. They love growing crops. They love feeding people. There's a certain sense of pride in, producing the the grains and the meat and the vegetables and like all the things. Like there's this like one of the reasons I continue to work in that niche is because people are almost always passionate about what they do. It's super easy to be around and to feel their passion for what they do. I don't care if you love how they do it or not, but then you have all these organizations, right, that don't love how they do it. So you've these attacks, and you look at it in social media. I mean, there's little armies of agriculture people who are out here trying to just defend their way of life.
Yeah.
Right. Because they feel attacked. It's like, I'm out here, like I have all the risk. Okay. Now, just the other day, Trump wants to pull like a good chunk of the government help. Okay. That helps avert some of the risk. Right. I have all the risk, and my job is completely dependent on the weather working out for me, which I have no control over. Right. And I have to buy all the things. Right. And like at the end of the day, you get to eat because I take on all this risk. I have all this stress. I do all these things, and I put in all the time, all my love. It's a labor of love, but really at the end of the day, it doesn't pay that well.
Yeah.
And so, but they do it out of pure love. And then, but at the same time, they're getting attacked. Right. Like I'm going to go so far as to say, if you were one of these people who want people to change the way they raise your food, right, if that's a thing, then a more productive way would be to try a different angle, right? Or like, how about we just love on the people that are producing our food, and let's be grateful and don't bite the proverbial hand.
Sure.
Right? Sure. That feeds us, kind of thing.
I know, like in call it my prayer practice when I eat. When I grew up, I was taught to just pray and, thank God for my food. But now I think about the details, and I bring it down from the truck driver to the grocer, to the grower, to the soil, to the insect that helped germinate, all the way down to Mother Earth, and say, thank you for all of that. Because without that daisy chain, I wouldn't have this on my plate. But people just don't know this.
Right.
There's not somebody, maybe not yet. As we're leading this podcast, maybe somebody will head this off. It could be us, it could be somebody else. It's just like, let's be a little bit more caring and thoughtful about what we're doing, because it only takes a second to be grateful, and that whole chain changes. But we're not necessarily taught that in school. We're taught to, again, we won't pull politics, but we're not taught to actually think about this. We watch school, we sit down, we be quiet, we listen. But that's not in our. It is in our society. It's not prevalent in our society at this moment. There are people that understand this and care, right? There are, because we're here right now.
Yeah. Yeah. But I love the way you break that down and like really think about big pieces of gratitude and being present as I'm consuming this plate of spinach with chicken on it that I'm about to go have, right? There are a whole chain of people and things and different types of inputs all the way along the whole chain that created this possibility for me to get really good nourishment. Right. And like, I really care about what I eat. I care about what I put in my body. I watch it, to take a minute and just really get present, to that, and then express that gratitude is another, almost like in a way, if you're being really present, is a meditative practice. Right, to really bless not only the food and to the body. We say like bless this food, the food and the hands that prepared it, farmers that produce it. My body, my body to your service or whatever. But really like start to think like, oh wow, there's like so many things had to happen for that little spinach leaf to get produced to end up here.
When you get present to this kind of line of thinking, because that meditation is something that's really helped me be present with these moments, right? You can take that same method and you go, okay, to my work and be grateful. Not only do I have a chair to sit on and a desk, or I have a tractor, or I have fuel. There was somebody who delivered the fuel, somebody who pumped the fuel, somebody who pulled it out of the earth, a geologist that found it so that I could be here. And then I also have these other factors that help me be here at the moment. And I'm a part of that, I'm a part of that cohesive environment. And it's a great place to just feel good, because you're never alone. Like just to eat a sandwich took 100 people.
Yeah. There's a lot of impact along the way when you really break it down. So guys, Greg and I are coming up towards the end of our time that we scheduled here at least. And what I love about this conversation is that we've gone totally micro, which is like, this is how this stuff can benefit me. And we've blown it way out to the macro. Like, this is how you can impact the White House, the planet, all the things.
Yeah.
And then also kind of just in between, like, hey, this is like, you really care about your food, where it comes from. What about a meditative practice? And this is literally what I'm thinking about. And I want to start pursuing this with the One Mind app. Like, what if we just had a group of us that got together, that just got together, did a meditation for 20 minutes once a month, and had a specific intention toward, the food production, food practices, the farmers, right now, just here in Nebraska where I live, we've just been pounded by floods. I mean, there's entire fields, farms, families, entire towns that have been wiped out in the last 3 days. It's still happening. As we record this, it's actually happening right now. And so setting the intention, just to, like, for the healing, for the work, for all the things that get to happen. There's so many crucial, like, just timing pieces that have to go into producing the food that we all, for the most part, take for granted. Most people take for granted, right? Yeah. What if we just set a specific intention? Because here's what I do see in that industry specifically. We have a lot of survival, right? It's like every year we're fighting the markets. Every year you're fighting policy. This year there's a lot of policy issues going on. So if you just set a specific intention, and we can just have a group that grows, 10 people, then 20 people, then more, like literally, setting that intention out and like allowing that. And it's beyond a tweet, right? It's like the impact, right?
Yeah. I see something a little grander in mind, and I'll just throw this out there as adding to the intention. The communities that you work in care. They love, right? And they also care that their neighbor and the farmer down the street and the farmer across the country also works, right? It's this community. And so there's two things that are going on here. Maybe it's once every 2 weeks or once a week, because people have different schedules, where it's pulling people in and growing this community. And the second thing that One Mind was built for is what happens when there is situations like right now. What if there's a flood here? Can you tap into a group or a network and build it big enough that if something's happening in this moment, we're able to send a push notification to everybody's phone that says, hey guys, we're part of this group. Will you drop in? Drop in just means sit down and breathe with me, right? Hold your intention that in Nebraska right now, that the families that are being impacted by this, that it's easy, that the recovery is smooth, and whatever kind of format flows. And it may be something more regular, it may not be. One of my intentions was to say, like, what happens if there's a tsunami? Can we put 1 million people on that says, please help this situation to smooth through? And in doing so, we just build more of this community. Like, let's say, for example, it was you that was pulling these on. And there's a way for us to allow people to say, yes, I want notifications when we're holding these meditations, to where something big happens and you pull it up and you're like, okay, Mark's count, we're going to kick this in. We're going to say that it's an emergency. How many people could we get to drop in this moment and be present right now for them? Because we care about them now, not just once a month, right? So we have these practices, but we also have the ability for in the moments when it matters.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I love it, man. We're going to do it. We'll put something together.
Done. I'm here to assist.
It is done.
I'm here to assist you.
Well, this is our community is a big prayer community, and so when we start talking about meditation, it's a little bit different practice, so to speak, right? But it doesn't. But it isn't. Yeah.
One Mind is a prayer and meditation application because what we're talking about is a label. So we list out different, like that you can physically set prayers, or you can set a meditation. But really, if you go back into the Old Testament, they talk about contemplation. You pray and then you contemplate. And that's your setting down and being quiet. And it's the same, it's just a different label, right? We're going to pray and we're going to listen, because how many times do people just speak to God and they don't listen in return?
Yeah. Let's take a minute and sit and listen for the answer. Question that comes up a lot for me as we're talking about teaching meditation and just trying to help people get started, right? Is there a wrong way to do this?
No. The biggest impacts, the biggest things that people ask is like, I can never sit down for 2 minutes alone. Like the moment that I sit down, my brain goes crazy. And then they're like, well, am I supposed to hold my hands in a certain way? Am I supposed to sit? Am I supposed to do these things? And so there's not a wrong way. I like to explain the hard drive scenario for somebody that's like, I can't be quiet. I'm like, okay, well, just listen to something and allow that to defrag. And then, sitting up straight is because our spinal column, it has these nervous system nerves that send nerve impulses up and down our body. So when we're slunched and we're twisted, that spinal column and all the fluid doesn't flow as easily as it can be. So setting up is nothing more than allowing your electrical system of your biomechanical suit, your body, to work right. That's it. So it's not that there's wrong. You can lay on the floor, you can hunch over. All of the other teachings are just to help you do it a little easier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's just like I can go deeper and deeper into any spiritual book. If I want to learn more and more about the Bible, I just get together with a group. I start learning more and go deeper. It's just another physical, spiritual, mental practice that allows me, different access and defrags the mind. It helps me get quiet. Since I really started, probably about 5 years ago, I think it was, I really started a regular practice, and it's just become more and more. And I will tell people, Greg, it's my secret weapon.
Yeah.
Right. I sit and get quiet for 10 minutes at 2:00 every day.
Yeah.
That's literally it. Is I just sit and get quiet for a few minutes, and that gives me my next 2 hours, like kind of that 2:30 to 5-ish from time frame at the end of the day. I'm so much more sharper, so much more sharp, and so much better. I make better decisions. I get more done. Yeah. All because I took 10 minutes. Right.
Yeah, you're tapping into some research that's been done about how people work and what happens after they get done eating lunch. Because all the blood sinks down to the body, you get tired, you're more lethargic, and you're not pushing. And at that 10 minutes a day, at 2:00, if you're regular like 8 to 5, they're tracking 18% production increases in your day.
Wow.
Because you're just listening to your body. Your body needs a couple extra seconds to just reformulate after you ate all that food, and give yourself a little rest and then be present. And then like for me, for my practice, I pray a couple of times a day. I meditate a couple times a day. I use both, which is why we say it's prayer order. Because either one works. we're just removing some labels, because we just don't want people on this side that say only prayer and this people on only meditation, because they're stuck on a label. We're doing the same thing. Can we just be happy with each other?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, man, I appreciate all the insights and the update on the One Mind app, which, guys, just jump over right now. As long as you're not driving, just jump over, download the One Mind app, get ready, especially if you're in our community. If you're in the Thrive Today app, what I think I'm actually going to have Amanda do is link this up at the bottom. So you literally will just be able to click over to the One Mind app and launch it straight from the Thrive Today app that we have, Greg. So that's going to be a thing where we'll start scheduling, and I'm just going to personally start leading some group meditations within our community. And we have about 500 users on our app right now of past and existing clients. So we're going to start promoting that, pushing that out. But download the app. You can check in with Greg. He's got a great Instagram account. You can follow his travels all over the world. I do. He's always in different places. One of these days, I hope to catch up with you and come hang out somewhere in Mexico or wherever you decide to put down for a couple of days. So.
In the stores and Apple or Google, it's One Mind Meditation. One Mind is a word. Yeah. We really want it just to be one mind, one heart, one mind in any practice. But One Mind Meditation is what they'll find. And again, One Mind's one word, but
you bet.
Beautiful.
And it's a free download, guys. I mean, this is not a hard decision. Get it on your phone. If you want to become the guru, if you want to become the leader of the meditation, you can do that too, right? So I mean, there's lots of ways, and share this with your groups, your church groups, your other people that you belong to, and share it around. Get the word out for this, because I'm excited for the impact that it's going to have on the world. And I've seen the impact of this, not only prayer and meditation and focused intention on a specific thing with a specific outcome, and like seen it manifest, right? Yes. I've seen it come to life. And I'll share this really quick story with you. So we just got back from a journey to Colombia, and certainly there are other things involved in medicines and stuff that we work with down there. However, I was just really focused, and the group was focused on my nephew who went with. Okay. His name is Brent, and he was, we were all just, kind of loving on him and caring for him. Here's a guy who's about 9 months out of the U.S. Marines, had lost a lot of friends, not even gone to war, just suicides, and saw a lot of just terrible things. Was quite depressed. His own suicide was figured out. He had this all figured out. But we took him with to get out, right? To get outside the day-to-day here in the States. I took him to Colombia, and he was just meditating by a pond one day, and it clicked, and he got all the things, and like all the shame and the anger and the things that he'd been bottling inside were gone.
Wow.
And I mean, I could just show you, in fact, before we get off the call here today, Greg, I want to show you the before and after picture of his eyes.
Wow.
Right? And it totally shifted. And he's discovered his purpose. I mean, he's going back. He's literally sitting with the Special Forces recruiter right now to go and become a Navy SEAL. Like, he rediscovered his purpose. Yeah. 23 years old, 6 months ago didn't want to be on this planet anymore. Now, and he's actually staying with me in Omaha until he finds a place, and he's going to start training to go to BUD/S. He's going to stay here until he gets called up. Re-enlisted in the Navy yesterday. And now he's it was just so fun because everybody was there doing their own thing and meditating on their own stuff, but also we're all a little bit older, so I all feel like big brothers and sisters. And he's my nephew, and you just want to see it. And it just all of a sudden when it clicked, boom, and he figured out who he was again. He remembered, right? So that's that focused intention, meditation. It can heal. It heals depression. It heals anxiety. It heals all the shit that you're holding on to and dealing with, right? It can happen. And so it is a powerful, powerful practice that you can use for yourself, and that you can use to get more focused and be more present with other people around you. And I think everything else is just surviving life, Greg. And it's time for more people. It's time for more people to thrive, man.
I totally agree. In the New Testament, Jesus Christ says, if 2 or more people come in my name, I'll be there. And what you're saying is, I'm coming with an intention, and I'm bringing multiple people, 2, 10,000, 100,000. Right. And imagine the field or the energy that will bring through if that many people actually did. Send love to the White House. Even if you didn't like the politics, you just want them to do a good job. The best job they're capable of doing, right? Mm-hmm. So we're just tying all of these principles in together and just bringing it out. So it's so beautiful. That experience you just talked about was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thank you guys for listening. Greg, thanks for being on. Greg W. Anderson on the Instagram, Facebook. Look him up. One Mind
Meditation.
Meditation in your app store, in Google Play. Download it, and we'll see you guys on some of those live meditations soon.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. If you like what you heard, make sure to jump over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and review. We appreciate the feedback, and it helps other people find the show. On that same note, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it with a friend. As always, if you're looking for more resources to go from surviving to thriving, check out our website at www.markjeweltraining.com. That's Jewel with 2 L's. And you can find us under Mark Jewel Speaking and Training on all the major social networks. Remember, survival is dead. It's your time to thrive today. See you next week.